I used to think that in order to be a real photographer, I had to know how to shoot film. Maybe it was the idea that film photography was actual photography. Maybe it was the history of photographers who I admire, like Dwayne Michaels and Inga Morant. Maybe it was the increasing popularity of film photographers on social media. In any case, I've been thinking a lot about film recently, and I'm really curious about why the idea of film and the look of film has such an influence in my own work as a photographer who shoots primarily with digital cameras. I've often wondered if I could somehow incorporate film photography into my workflow. And I've owned the Canon AE1 for a few years now, and I've shot a few rolls of film. But since I shoot primarily with the Canon EF lenses, I've been really curious about their EF mount film cameras. Enter the Canon EOS 1V. This is sometimes referred to as the best film camera ever made, and it feels to me more like shooting with a 5D series camera than with a film camera. I picked up the 1V a few weeks ago, and I wanted to answer a couple of questions. First, could I reasonably incorporate film into my workflow? Would it make sense for the way that I shoot, and would it fit in to my portfolio and my style of images? In order to answer that question, I brought the EOS 1V with me to several recent photo shoots, both personal and professional, and really incorporated it into my workflow. Anyone who shot film before knows that the process is a lot different than shooting with a digital camera. Film tends to slow us down and get us thinking about photography in new and different ways, at least for me. I've been really excited about shooting film recently because it's brought me back to when I first started photography, and there was so much exploration and discovery in the process of learning. And when I shoot film, when I look at the final images, I remember the moment I took each photo, and that's special, and that's not something that always happens when you're shooting with a digital camera. So we've established that shooting film can be a really enjoyable experience, but is it actually worth it in today's world when we are surrounded by these incredible digital cameras? For those of you who are familiar with the channel, you'll know that I shoot with the Fujifilm X series digital cameras for myself, and I also use them to supplement my professional workflow. When I shoot with my X Pro 3, it really slows me down, gets me thinking about photography in new ways, and it can really add a creative element to a professional shoot. I love supplementing my workflow with that more creative camera. Using the 1V on recent shoots has felt familiar because it has fulfilled a similar function of being this more creative supplement to my work. The film look is as unique as the process of shooting film, and it can really add something special to your images. The 1V in particular really kept up with my R6. Using it was really easy. The camera's fast. It just works really well. Of course, it's a more considered approach shooting film. It gets me thinking about each frame more so than I would with a digital camera, but that's to be expected. Nothing about using the camera slowed me down in a negative way or felt difficult. It's definitely something that I could continue to incorporate into my workflow. So, okay, we've established that film photography can fit into my workflow, but should it? Is it really worth it? Recently, I took a trip to Florida to visit some family, and I decided to switch to film for the week that I was there. I wanted to get an understanding of the process, and I wanted to decide for myself if shooting film was really worth it. Now, admittedly, I still have a lot to learn about film photography. I have a lot to improve on. I'm still fairly new to the medium, and while I enjoyed the challenge, I came away with mixed feelings. I appreciate so many aspects of shooting film that we've discussed in this video, how the process slows you down and gets you thinking about photography differently. I enjoy selecting various film stocks, shooting the film, sending it to a lab, waiting for it to be developed, and waiting to see those scans, remembering where you were when you shot those images. All of this is really enjoyable and rewarding, and I just love the process. But I also love the process of shooting digitally. The immediacy of the EVF, the unlimited amount of images you can shoot, working with raw files in Lightroom. This is all part of the digital process that I have come to know and love. While I enjoyed the change that came with shooting film, I did end up missing my digital camera, and eventually I shot a few frames on my R6 just as a point of comparison. I was fairly happy with the results that came out of the 1V. The colors and the vibe of the look is really beautiful, but I was equally as pleased with the images that I got from my R6, despite the apparent differences. I came away from this experiment with this confirmation that digital photography is okay. It's okay to enjoy the process of shooting digitally, just as it's okay to enjoy the process of shooting with film. So where does this leave us? I still want to incorporate film into my workflow on occasion. I imagine it will continue to supplement my work much in the same way that the X Pro 3 does. And as I continue to improve my skills with film photography, I can see it becoming a creative asset for me, and that's pretty exciting. But I won't be switching over to film anytime soon. Now, I'm curious to know what you think. Do you shoot film? Do you have any interest in it? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching my recent video comparing the Leica Q2 to my other cameras, including the Canon AE1. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Say hi down below. I'd love to see you at the next video. Thank you as always for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.